Entrepreneurship, Chapter 9, Developing Networks and Building Teams. The power of networks. When we talk about the power of networks, we're talking about two sources of personal identification. And we're talking about human capital and we're talking about social capital. Human capital is when we talk about like our talent, our intellect, our charisma. Our social capital is when we talk about personal social networks, with people that we interact with that provide various type of relationships. The power of the networks. Best networks provide multiple benefits. Network building is a dynamic process. Recognize value and purpose of relationships. Best networks provide multiple benefits. They provide multiple benefits because they provide things such as information, financing, sources of connections with folks that you didn't have before, from networking, the works, different way of looking at things and thinking. When we think in terms of these networks, they provide a building, this dynamic process. It's because, you continuously have things that are constantly moving. And, when you're an entrepreneur, as you're trying to endeavor, you're constantly moving and grooving and trying to find places where you can connect and do things, think, or whatever else. It is a very dynamic process. And also recognize value in purposeful relationships. When you have purposeful relationships, they are a benefit to you versus relationships that are not purposeful. They may be friends, but they don't add any value to your network as far as helping you with your business endeavor. So I'm going to look at three dimensions of the social capital. First, we're talking about structural components. So when we talk about structural components, we're talking about things like, informal, relationship, trusting, when we think in terms of people, structural components, that's where we're talking about primary cognitive type stuff. Relational contacts. This is where we really get to talking about relations with people, norms and customs and things along those lines. Cognitive aspects is the thinking, it's the vision, the value, stuff that goes on up here. It's intangible, something you can't touch, but it's something that you may think about doing or whatever. So when we look at the OECD, this is Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development. So it has a couple of things here. We're looking at different aspects of it. So we're looking at bonds with similar people, bridges that go farther, and linkages. So when we're talking about bonds with similar people, we're talking about, this is people who are real close to us, like family, lifelong friends, and things along sorority brothers and sisters, members of your basketball team or your volleyball team or soccer team. When we think in terms of the bridges that go farther, this is when we think in terms of making connections with like classmates and colleagues who have different backgrounds and different ethnicities, different culture, different races, things along those lines. And when we think in terms of the linkages, we're thinking in terms of connections with people or groups, just regardless, just connecting with folks. And so when we do the networks based on this, it's done in these three different phases. And I will tell you, you may think that the first phase is probably the strongest or whatever, but I tell you what, you never can dismiss any one of them. This is why a good entrepreneur would want to do all three, because you never know where that great opportunity may come. It could come from linkage that you set up with someone that you met through a society or something. Benefits to social capital, a sense of value, a sense of shared value, emotional, social, economic support. So when you have a shared value, these are things that you share with others. So you kind of value the same things. And it's good when you have others that, who feel the same way as you do and have a similar outlook. It's supporting and it's rewarding, and it can support you. Emotional, social, economic support. All of these are important as well for the same reasons. You're dealing with people who understand and can relate, or they are supporting you because, they believe in you. The power of networks, downsides to social capital. Okay, strong ties can be restricted. Prevention of open mind, too much loyalty. Okay, if you have social capital, and let's say that you have some people that they're in let's say some family members, and you have really strong ties, but they don't believe in your dream. And as a result of not believing in your dream, they're going to be restricted. They won't think the way you do. They will not have an open mind. And you may have too much loyalty to them to want to proceed and continue with the endeavor. The value of networks, the different types of interactions, advantage of networks. It's amazing by having the networks, entrepreneurs, you get to tap into folks like professors, other entrepreneurs, business owners, financial advisors, uh, all types of places where you actually have tapped into this and they have resources. You may not have the resource, but you may tap into a network where somebody else does. So this is very important to tap into to develop networks so you can actually multiply your resources through others. Here's a big one. Access to private information. There are some things you will not know and you cannot know. You will actually have to meet somebody who's got that information and can provide it to you and give you some insight on something that you otherwise would have never had. And as a matter of fact, too, as a result of this, it may help you prevent from making a mistake in your entrepreneur endeavor. Access to skill sets and power. When you tap into networks, you tap into other people, you tap into other people's skill sets as well and their power. What type of influence and power do they have? With various, for instance, if it's someone who works on the board of a bank and his skill set is he helps businesses get money and he can help you. See, that's not his skill set, that's his power. If his skill set is somebody who actually say, you know what, I can help you with your marketing. That's a skill set. So there's an example of skill set and power, but these things are important. Impression management and self-confidence. Pay attention to how you are perceived. Listen, you only get one opportunity to make your first impression. If you make it and it's bad, you may not be able to overcome it. So pay attention to how you are perceived. When you are dealing with people, how you speak with them, how you approach them, how you talk about your business, whatever else. One of the things I can tell you is don't relax and think you're talking to a buddy. Always remember you're talking to a professional. Conduct yourself in a professional manner. And if, depending upon where you are, dress appropriately. When you are perception, it's going to be a lot of it. It's going to determine whether or not people want to do business with you, work with you, or buy something from you. Impressions are formed very quickly. As soon as someone meets you, guess what the first impression is? The eye test. They look at you. They size you up. The next impression is they get a feel for you when they speak with you. That's your next impression. And the final impression that they'll get is when you talk to them about what you're trying to do. So looking the part, sounding the part, and knowing the part. That's going to be all three impressions. Look, manage impression of others. This is what you will do by doing those things. Manage the impressions of others. This is vitally important if you're trying to start, grow a business endeavor, an entrepreneur endeavor. These things are important. I have seen personally where an entrepreneur endeavor, a business endeavor, could not get off the ground, even though it was a great idea and a good concept, because the impression of the owner, the entrepreneur, was not good. So remember that. Impression management and self-confidence. Implicit bias. Implicit biases, these are things that's subconscious. That people do, this attitude stereotypes that affect understanding, actions, and decisions in an unconscious way. So what these are things that you do that you're not aware of. When people have implicit bias, they say and do things that they're not aware of. But these things are viewed as a lot of times as derogatory by others. For instance, if someone hurts someone's feelings or insults them or insults their ethnicity or their gender or their sexual orientation and don't even realize they're doing it, because where they're from, the way they think and how they talk and how they do things are different. That's an implicit bias. Now, as an entrepreneur, if you have a lack of confidence, I want you to understand something. If you don't, as an entrepreneur, if you don't believe in what you're doing and you don't protect confidence, how do you think other people will buy into it? It's basically you're trying to convince me to do something that you apparently you don't appear to believe in it yourself because you reflect low confidence. That is a killer. I mean, if you think about it, totally counterproductive. Some regard networking negative. For some people, they regard networking negative because they feel like, well, I don't want to be out here selling and pitching people or whatever else. It's not that. No, it's positive. It's positive because this is how you ultimately going to try to start your business endeavor or grow it, by networking with other folks. And a lot of times when people view networking negatively, it's because of kind of how they're naturally wired. A lot of times it's associated with people who may be introverts. Extroverts would not have a problem with that, but people, if they're wired to be an introvert, they could see networking as negative. And don't underestimate the value of networking. You never know when a great opportunity may come your way, or some good information or some good assistance through networking opportunities. Never underestimate the value of it, and you always continue to do it. So when we look at self-selected stakeholders, people who offer commitment to the venture, these people are folks who are inclined to be working with you and help you. Okay, you don't need to pitch these people because they don't need to be sold, because they're usually already on board. They're close enough to you. They believe in you, or they believe in what you're doing. So you don't need to pitch them. What you do is enroll them, get their assistance, enroll them rather than trying to sell them. You don't need to sell them. For the most part, they're already sold. So there will be people that you will have to sell, but it won't be these people. These I'll give you an example. That could be a mother, father, brother, a significant other, a best friend, or whatever else. These people won't need to be sold. Senji's guideline for enrollment. So when we look at this, it's actually got 3 parts to this. It's first, be enrolled yourself. Second, be truthful, not only to yourself, but to other people. And let the other person choose. When you allow people choice versus, trying to dictate to them, you get better buy-in. Think about this. If I'm choosing to help you versus you telling me I need to help you, that's a difference. And because I'm choosing to help you, I'm probably going to choose to do more than you probably believe I would. But if you tell me to help you and I feel kind of compelled to do it, I may do just enough to get by. New ventures require variety of talent. When you're looking at new ventures, you're going to need different types of people, new types of talent. For instance, don't hire a marketing person to handle your accounting. Don't hire a person who has no customer service to experience to be your customer service. Those are things when you look at it, but you see all different types. If it's somebody's good at actually helping you find financing or whatever else, then utilize that person that way to help you find financing. Now, if you use them in another way, bottom line, as long as they help you with one way that where their area of expertise is, they're going to help you with something else, that's fine. But don't give that person who's got a finance background, put him over research and development. Share activity builds trust. When you bring people in and you share activity, and it's almost like you develop like a bond, almost like a family. It builds trust among people. And that right there, I respect you. I believe in what you're doing, but I also, I trust you and you trust me. So therefore, I don't want to let you down. Building networks, meet others in your location. So when you have opportunities to get out and network and meet people in your area, do it. And I mean in person, if you can. If there's places where they're actually gathering and it might be some good opportunities to network with some folks, go and do it. I know this is post-COVID, so some things you may find it may still be virtual, but do those as well. But when it comes to networking, my first choice would always be to do it in person. My second choice would be virtual. If you can't do anything but telephonic, something is better than nothing. Get support from many areas. So yeah, you network in your area, meet folks, but don't limit your networking to just your locale and your general area. You may find there's people not only in other cities, other states, possibly even other countries, when you network, that might be beneficial to you in your business endeavor. Incubators and accelerators. A startup incubator helps refine ideas. Okay, basically a startup incubator is this is an organization that helps people start businesses. It works with people in the early stages to get them up and running, to fine tune their ideas, the business plan, the works, maybe seek the funding to get them operational. Startup accelerators, what they do is they help scale a business, meaning you already have a small business and you've been in business for 2 years. Now you want to grow it. This is what the accelerators do. They will help you put the game plan in place to try to grow your business from a 3-man operation or a 3-woman operation to where now you have a 10-person operation and you've expanded outside of your city, and now you're actually looking at marketing and doing something throughout the state or internationally through online. This is what they help you do. Learning how to network. Learning how to network is a two-way game. In networking events, and they give and they take of networking. This is a two-way game because it's constantly you're giving and you're taking. When you're networking with people, they're networking with you. It's not a one-way street. When you're attending these events and you're giving, see the give and the take of networking. When you're networking with them, they're networking with you because they're looking for the same thing from you. You know, how could you be beneficial to me? That's how it works in the network. It's not a one-way street. Just as you're networking with folks, they're looking to network with you as well. Networking to find mentors. Mentors act as role models. Entrepreneurs create mentors for success, build up a network of mentors. Mentors, you see this a lot in corporate America. You see this a lot when it comes to people doing on-the-job training. And you see it in people starting up entrepreneur business endeavors. Mentors are people who are subject matter experts. These people already have experience. They've worked in the field or worked in similar fields. And therefore, what they're going to do is give you guidance to help you do what you do. And listen, you cannot have too many of them. Bottom line is this. You can give you an example. You can have a mentor whose background is really in finance. So he or she can help you when it comes to trying to get your business financed or grow your business. You can have another mentor who has a background in marketing, in sales. They can help you with that. You can have another mentor who has a background in manufacturing. And if you're manufacturing something, they can help you with that. So when you build a network of mentors, it's going to be multiple, and they're going to come from all walks of life, or they should come from all walks of life. So networking to build the founding team. Group who founds the enterprise. So when you look at the group who founds the enterprise, this is usually talking about the person who came up with it or persons, and the people around them who helped them do it. If you look at Apple, you look at Microsoft, if you look at Dell Computers, yes, you had somebody who was instrumental in starting each one of those, but they didn't do it by themselves. They actually had a group of folks who helped them. When you think in terms, I like to call those kind of people who started those the dreamers. The dreamer, the person who had the dream, and the person who's the engine that drove the train. Well, yeah, you got to have other people to help you too. And that's going to be your group when it comes to the enterprise. More ventures founded by team. So when you think in terms of ventures, there's research to show that most ventures today are actually not founded by a person. Most of them are actually founded by teams, a group of people or teams of people coming together. And you think about that, it almost makes sense because when you've got, let's say one person is trying to start a business endeavor, and then there's another group of 5 people who are trying to start the same endeavor. I want you to think about that for a minute. Would you rather be a team of 1 or a team of 5? Look how much more they can do. Look how much, that's 5 people working towards a common goal versus over here is just one person. Now, that's not to say that the one person can't be successful, but I am going to tell you that most business today that get started and stuff is statistically shown that they're actually founded by a group of people or teams. So when you're building this thing, you want partners to bring in partners with diverse skill sets. Um, Diverse skill sets. When you think in terms of everybody's bringing something to the table. Remember, like I said, you may have the dreamer, but then you may have somebody in marketing, you may have someone in finance, somebody in sales, somebody in manufacturing, somebody in HR. But you're bringing people with different background. Sources of the founding members, this is what you want to have within that. And a lot of times when these teams are founders, that's what they have. They come through and they do bring in some different skill sets and different backgrounds because now they can work off of each other, where you're the guy who's making it. You're the guy who's making it. You're the guy who's selling it. But I'm the guy responsible for things getting delivered. So, you see how things work out. But that's 5 of the founding team members. So networking to build a founding team. Characteristics of a great founding team. Team members come from networks. So these team members already come. Let's use those 5 people again I was referring to. So when those 5 people come together for that entrepreneur endeavor, those 5 people come with already networks. There are 5 different networks that they bring with them. Most teams have a lead entrepreneur. So remember I referred to the dreamer. There's usually somebody who's the catalyst behind it and the dreamer. And they're the engine that drives the train. But yet and still, they can't do it by themselves. Positive social relations. And within this group, these people have good relationships amongst themselves because everybody's working towards a common goal. It's not like one person's trying to outshine the other. So if you have positive working relationships, social relationships within the group, it'll be much easier for you to have them outside of the group. You can grow on that. Now, we'll tell you this. If you don't have those positive social relations within that group trying to get this started, it's almost a recipe for disaster because now somebody or somebody's is not playing fair in the sandbox. Why does he always get to do this? Why don't I get to do that? Why does she get to do this? And I'm better at it. When you start seeing those kind of things, those are issues. And there's usually, when you first start and early on, I can usually show you either a group that won't stay together in that capacity, or there'll be eventually some point in time where somebody will have to actually get kicked out. The value of team diversity. Diversity lies in, and the word diversity it's gotten so politicized now, and it's a shame because it means so much. It means so much. And I'm going to throw this out there. It's not just about race. It's about all other things. Now, in this particular point right here, let's say we won't even talk about race. Let's look at that word diversity. Diversity lies in goals, viewpoints, and experiences. So right here, when you have those 5 people that I referred to, they see things differently. They have different viewpoints. They have different experience. And the diversity lies in the goals. So you can come together as a group to try to get things and utilize it, everybody's knowledge. It's not one person's knowledge, it's 5 people's knowledge and experiences and viewpoints. And homogeneous teams. This is when you have teams that are very similar in who they are in makeup. That could be their training, their education, and their experience. That could be their culture, their race, their gender. That could be their age. But either way, if these 5 people are very similar, homogeneous and stuff, one of the things I will tell you that would do, a lot of times that helps them gel real quick because they are so similar, they can come together as a unit real quick. Heterogeneous is different. This is when people are different, but they come together for a common goal. Now, they may not gel as soon as the homogeneous group, but let me tell you what they will do. A lot of times they're more creative and they think in different ways and stuff because they do have different backgrounds, experience, what I referred to earlier, diversity of thought, diversity of experience, diversity of ideas. Homogeneous groups sometimes will suffer from lack of that because everybody's got the same background. So the value of team diversity. So when we look at the cognitive comprehensiveness, we're talking about, we're looking at a lot of issues and things, forming different strategies from different diverse approaches to doing things, decision making, different courses of action, but we're considering everything. And when we look at the group think can be an issue. It can be a problem. Because a lot of times you have groupthink. This is when you have a group of people or a team, and it's a phenomenon. They all kind of share a similar mindset. So if they do, here's your issue with groupthink. Because they kind of share a similar mindset, they kind of probably only see things very similar. So the things that they don't see, the things that they wouldn't see, none of them sees because they have a groupthink going on. And this happens sometimes, but it's hard for people to grow, groups to grow, and teams to grow when they suffer from groupthink. Healthy conflict is when you're having dialogue back and forth. Those 5 diverse people, when they're having healthy conflict between each other, when they're playing pros and cons with each other, they're bouncing ideas off of each other. You know, I come up with a good idea, so I think, but 2 other people can tell me why it's not a good idea. That's healthy conflict right there. And that is a good thing. So people a lot of times say, well, conflict is bad. Not healthy conflict. Bad conflict is now when I come up with a good idea and 2 other people tell me it's not a good, and they tell me why, and then I tell them, well, I don't care what you said. I think this is a good idea. And you 2 are always saying things about anytime I say something, you always want to shoot me down. That's not healthy right there. That is a conflict right there, but that's not a healthy conflict. So there's a distinction between the 2. So that concludes chapter 9.